Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Rebel City Podcast. The song that I'm using on the intro this week is Kalan. I hope I'm saying that right. It's a song called Evonium. Kalan are a Scottish band that I'm going to have in the podcast in the next couple of weeks, so I thought I would give one of their songs off of their album, which is available just now, as one of the intros. Really remind me of Biffy Clyro, but in their own way. And I'm loving the album, been listening, I must have listened to it about 15-20 times now. This week's guest is Mikala Monsoon. Mikala is fronting a campaign called Revenge on Revenge Porn. We talk a bit about what is revenge porn and some of the experiences of individuals that have been victim of it. We talk about, is it actually a valid name? Like, should we be calling it something else? Is it just sexual assault and rape? We talk about pickup artists, attitudes from like the police and the authorities towards victims, and some of the barriers that people find when trying to get the confidence to come forward. Now, Mikala is clearly a very intelligent woman and is doing some great work fronting this campaign, and I think the work that she's doing is incredible, and I wanted to get her on the podcast because I feel that this is a very important issue. Not only is it just a general important issue, but it's an issue that we as men need to educate ourselves around, so that we don't engage in revenge porn and even the more innocent sides of it. So without further ado, we'll just get into the episode and we'll just listen to a wee bit more of Kalan before we do that. Hope you enjoy the episode. So hello and welcome to another episode of Rebel City Podcast. This week's episode, we're hugely privileged to have Mikala Monsoon on. Thanks for coming on, Mikala.
Thank you. That's really
We've
nice.
got a bit of a subject to broach. This week we're going to be talking about revenge porn. So, I'd seen a post on your social basically just talking about the campaign Revenge on Revenge Porn. Do you want to just tell us a wee bit about it?
So I basically started this campaign movement project thing. It's called Revenge on Revenge Porn. That's the website. And basically the idea came from this a couple of months back because there was a whole rise in this new thing called OnlyFans. It's not a new thing, but it basically became almost a new thing in the eyes of the public. And it's essentially where anyone can start an account and share photos and people pay for that. It's like a Patreon sort of subscription service. But I kind of thought about it for ages and I was like, why is this such a big thing now? And I wrote about it at the time, and it was basically, I connected the dots and I thought about it. And the reason that is such a big thing now is because revenge porn is so massive. And the reason that people are now saying, I'm going to upload my own photos and get paid for them is because they have realized that they're going to get shared anyway, even if they don't consent to that. So revenge on revenge porn, that's where the idea kind of came from in the first place, but also just because I've been a victim of revenge porn myself many times. And this movement has been tried to start before, but it's officially started now. It's going to be a project where people are going to be able to share their stories of what's happened to them. So it's in the format of a website. So there's going to be a page of anonymous stories where people can just log on, look at it, and see other people's experiences, see that they're not alone, see that this has happened to so many other people and how they're dealing with it and what they hope for in the future. And hopefully that will gain enough traction to actually gain police attention. And also there's going to be a photo series as well, which I'm working on, and it's going to be of some of the people that have been affected. I'm a makeup artist and a creative director, so I'm going to go to their their place or whatever, wherever they feel most comfortable, and take a picture of them. But it's instead of the pictures that you see when it comes to revenge porn, which is usually just like a picture of someone's body or a part of someone's body, it's going to be the whole of them, and they're in an environment that they feel themselves and the most comfortable. So it's showing more than just what you would see if you saw these photos. It's showing a bit of their life, a bit of their personality, and along with that will be comments on what happened to them and what they want to change and everything like that. So it's
I like that.
yeah. I mean, hopefully, what I want it to be is, instead of people looking up these pictures and seeing like the nude content and disconnecting that from a real person, because that's what happens a lot of the time. They just think, oh, there's, you know, some tits or whatever. They don't connect that to a person with a life and a family and hobbies and interests and goals and career and whatever. So I want to take that away. And then hopefully if people, I know a lot of people, myself included, I've changed my name, but a lot of people, if they Google their names, this is a lot of what comes up. And I'm hoping that if they, you know, contribute to the project, instead of Googling their name and finding these photos that they don't want to find, they might find this photo of themselves. And then instead of someone Googling their name plus nude or whatever, it'll come up with this photo, and then they'll look at the person and then they'll be like, oh shit, maybe I shouldn't be looking up photos of them naked, because they're actually someone that's going to be affected, and this isn't just like a joke. This is actually...
I think when you contextualise these things, it does make a difference, I think. I don't know whether we discussed it off mic or whether this was something we discussed in a previous episode, but I watched, is it Rashida Jones, her name is, where she does the Hot Girls Wanted and kind of like the Turned On series and stuff like that, and she goes behind the scenes of like the porn industry, and I found it really like eye-opening in that respect, because it contextualised these women as like real people, and it's odd that, you know, I'm not saying I would never consider them real women or real people.
No, but it's like the way in celebrities you don't think of them as real people.
Yeah.
It's like when you see a celebrity on the street, you're like kind of confused by it. So it's the same with porn. Like if you saw a porn star on the street, you'd be like, you wouldn't understand that they're... It's like seeing someone behind a screen is so different to actually knowing them or seeing them in real life.
Absolutely.
And you're right. Like I understand what you mean. Some people might take that the wrong way, but it is like seeing someone as a real person. Like if I met Jonah Hill, I would be like, you're a real person. Like it's just the same thing. Like you don't...
You buy milk?
Yeah. Like you're normal like me. Like you just wouldn't... You don't think of it because they're like this blown up, elevated version of humanity, and you don't connect it. So you're totally right. I agree with you.
Something definitely changed my like outlook on it, and I found myself quite sort of put off for, you know, a sustained period of time, because I was like, you don't realise how much it is the fantasy. You know what I mean? And when you actually go, no, this is a real person with a real life and, you know, real attributes, like I can get that. So I actually like that idea a lot.
Porn's acting at the end of the day. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So what was it that happened? Was it a couple of weeks ago? There was like some sort of like mega link that was shared. I mean, first off, I Google searched mega links, and the Twitter hashtag is shocking. I mean, it's basically like an online paedophile ring.
Really?
Like, so off the back of reading the articles and reading some of the stuff that you had done in the media already, I had seen that there was a mega link. So then I thought, right, how do people find these things? So I thought, well, I'll just Google mega links. And then there was a hashtag, and I clicked on the hashtag, and it blew my fucking mind.
What was the hashtag?
It's just hashtag mega links, and it's guys saying like jailbait, I'll share these links, and if you want, jump into my DM. Kind of disturbing. We had a guy on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, Alex Tiffin, and he spoke about his experience on Universal Credit, and he actually posted about it, and I missed it. But I mean, we can maybe talk about that a wee bit later. But what was it that happened where I think, was it like loads of cities, like the girls were being categorised by cities?
Yeah, so I was brought attention to two different links. So the way that it started was one of my friends from school sent me a link that I was part of. It was my old name and like old pictures of me. But she knew me from school, so she knew my old name. And the first one was it was girls in Scotland, I think specifically in Glasgow, but there was some girls who would have like brackets next to their name with like Falkirk, because they obviously weren't from Glasgow. So they literally did pinpoint their location.
Wow.
And it was just, the full names of all these lassies, and then inside the folders, pictures of them. And I didn't look through all the folders. I looked through my own, and then there was one called Glasgow Girl, because I was like, well, I'm going to click on that in case it's me and they don't know my new name or whatever. It wasn't me. It was someone who was asleep and they were literally like being sexually assaulted in their sleep. So it was awful. And then a lot of the girls that I like had to contact with or whatever, they said that a lot of them said that they weren't pictures of them, but they had their social media. So they tried to make it look like it was photos of them, but they were like, that's not me. And these naked photos, but that's my social media. And then some people, it was like, was photos of them and their social media and like everything to do with them.
So, and these links, there's also links to people's social media so that, well, I would assume that people can go and troll them.
Yeah, or find them. I think it's, that's even scarier because it makes you realize that sometimes these people that are looking at them are connecting it to a real person. So it's almost like, are they wanting to see them out in the street so that they can kind of look at them and have this in the back of their mind of like, I've seen you or whatever. But that was the first link. And then I got sent a message from someone else that I didn't know. And they said, do you know about this link? And that was the link that everyone's kind of seeing on the news. And that was every city in the UK that was like the big folder, and there was like 146 of those, and then you clicked on those and there was more folders with more names. So they had literally pinpointed the location of all these women, and a lot of people messaged me asking to try and see if they could find them, and I don't think they realized how traumatizing an ask that would be. Like if I was to go on this link and search through every folder and look for their name, I was like, I'm not an investigator, like I can't do that, like that's not good for my mental health.
No, definitely not.
And then what are you meant to do if you actually find somebody and be like, so you are in this folder? I mean, that'd be a horrible experience.
Yeah, and then imagine them turning that around on me if they got angry and was like, well, she looked through all the folders and found me. I was like, that just sounds like not my deal. So I just left it. And there's a lot of people's messages I haven't responded to, and I am sorry to them, but I can't be I am helping with this movement, but I can't be the person doing everything because that's just like, that's too much for one person.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is affecting a lot of people, and I don't know how many people actually have been affected just in this one thing, but realistically, this has happened to so many people. Like we're talking probably millions by now, especially like not just in the UK, but like everywhere. Because, there's just, we're in like the digital age. Like this is just a normal.
When you're talking about these files being set up sort of regionally, and people's social media sometimes being linked, and personal information out with, sort of sensitive pictures being shared. Yeah. Where does that information all come from? Because that seems like if we're talking hundreds per city, millions per country and beyond, like that's in itself probably a full-time operation. And I don't get where that information comes from.
That is the weird thing. Like it is a full-time thing, and you're like, who has the time? Like that's the weirdest part. And I mean, my photos have been circulating the internet since I was like 18 or 19. So these have been on forums, they've been on porn sites, they've been on blah, 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 whatever. And for ages, I was just Googling my name every day. Like I would get a message and they'd be like, I found you on this thing. And then I'd have to Google my name every single day, several times a day, find any links that I was posted on, try and contact the website, get it taken down, blah, blah, blah. And this like took up so much of my time. Like I would be doing that for a month straight until I'd eventually just give up. And then I'd just be like, I can't deal with this anymore. That's why I changed my name. And now if you Google my name, Mikala Monsoon, the only things that come up are like my website, which is awesome. That's the dream for anyone.
So did you have to change your name? Was that because the images that were going about?
Essentially, yeah. There was a couple of reasons why I changed it, but one of the main ones was like, well, I don't want my name being connected to like just photos of me. Like I would rather it would be connected to like my achievements and my career rather than just like some random photos I took when I was like 18.
Some of employers Google you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm self-employed, so thankfully. But no, it's true. Like, getting a job would be extra difficult. And even if they did, like, if they had Googled you, then imagine they hired you based off that. That would be even worse. I
find that incredible. So this type of database, is it people's boyfriends that are doing this? Like, or is it sort of, so I suppose there might be a couple of different examples, but the one where people are saying that's not me, is that just people targeting these individuals probably that they're not involved? But then like you see quite a lot, or through what I've read, it's like ex-boyfriends and ex-partners that are doing these things. Like,
I would say there's percentages of each. So there's some ex-partners, that does make up a percentage. Then there's people that people have trusted for like flirting with or whatever that have just like, they weren't even partners, they were just like romantic interest. Then there are people who have actually been hacked. and literally don't know who's posted it. Like I know a girl who was like, my stuff's been posted and I know that the other person, because there was 2 people involved, but she's like, I know that the other person hasn't done it because he's now in even more shit than I am.
Yeah.
So she's like, it's not him and it's not me. So someone's clearly like hacked into my iCloud or something. So that can happen. Just random strangers pulling together. Like, I don't know. It could be a number of different things. And then obviously there's actually 2 subsections. So there's one where people aren't even aware they're getting taken, so they're asleep, they're being assaulted, blah blah blah. Like that happens a lot. Like that's people who actually haven't, like they don't even know these photos exist, and that's like that Glasgow girl folder. I still don't know if she knows those photos even exist. So that's horrible. And then there's another subsection which is even kind of weirder, which is people who haven't taken the photos at all, but there's like forums on the internet where people will post a picture, like a perfectly innocent selfie, like if I was like this, and they would say, can you edit this? Like, and I don't know what the terminology they use, but someone photoshops it so that they look naked.
Deepfakes and stuff like
That's
that.
it, yeah. So like that kind of stuff. So deepfakes is like when they edit the face on and they do the porn stuff. That's another thing, which is like affecting celebrities and stuff like that. But like I think maybe how that would have started is people would post a photo of a girl that they wanted to see naked, and someone would just Photoshop it.
I can remember back in the day it was like Jessica Alba, and you would go on and it would be at the side of like websites, and it'd be like Jessica Alba naked, and it would be like horrendous photoshops. But as technology is moving on, they'll get realer and realer to the point where you can't even tell.
That's what the videos are like. So I think like Selena Gomez has been edited onto like a porn video, and like she's like, I have no idea who that is, but it's just they've edited her face onto it. But that's like on a local level as well. So people have literally.
I think this kicked off on Reddit, the deepfakes thing. That's where I became aware of it. And it was
I think Reddit's like a big, but you can't blame Reddit because Reddit's like the biggest forum on the internet. Like,
I don't know how credible it is, but the guys who were behind it originally said this is going to be a really big issue in the future because
100%.
we won't be able to tell who's who because this technology, this video technology is now there.
Black Mirror.
Nobody's listening to us.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to start basically putting celebrities into porn videos so that people listen to our message, and that's what they said at the time. Again, I don't know how credible that is or how believable that is.
It's a terrible method also.
Yeah.
But it's true, like people could
There's been videos of Obama and stuff
That's
like
what I was going to say. Yeah, realistically, you could fake the president.
Aye, it's already happened.
You could say, you could fake anyone. Like that could start war. That's like, people talk about like, I mean like the environment is a massive thing right now, but realistically the world's going to end because someone's going to do that with Donald Trump and start a third world war. Like that's our most imminent,
danger,
Do you think that the term, so I was sort of conceptualising this yesterday and trying to think about it, I don't think the term revenge porn really covers it.
No, I would agree.
Because porn is porn and it's so normal amongst...
I don't know, any of the examples we've talked about in the build-up to this, when we talk about revenge porn, I just think sexual assault.
Yeah.
Because when I was explaining it to my partner, I was sitting down with this girl, and revenge porn, blah, 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 about what I know about your story. And she was like, how is that revenge? And I was like, well...
Revenge
I think
for
it's
what?
I think it's just a generic...
Existing.
It's just a generic term that they use, you know what I mean?
Revenge for being in a relationship with the person. It's like...
Or literally just being alive.
Yeah.
No, it's true. Like this, I also have an issue with the term revenge porn, but I'm not going to try and change the name of it because that's what people understand it to be. But it's like revenge on what? And like, should it be categorized under porn? Is that not just me? Because that makes it sound, that makes it sound too normal. And it's just awful.
I think it should definitely be categorised as assault.
The police don't see it as that. So if you were to report this to the police, they don't see it as a sexual offence, which is horrible. So like I think personally, and this is something that I would really like to, this is another thing I want to achieve with the movement. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but for people who get caught posting or whatever, they should be put on the sex offenders register because it's a sexual crime of a sexual nature. Why are they not on that register? But the police and whatever don't see it that way. They're like, well, it's not a sexual crime, it's a cyber crime or whatever. It's definitely a deeply sexual crime because that is your body that's going
invasive
out.
On a number of levels. You know what I mean? Like if you've been asleep or been assaulted and then it's posted, it's almost like
double.
The intrusion is multiplied.
And this is the thing, I've spoken about this before, but like face-to-face harassment, like someone catcalling you in the street or like someone like sliding their hands onto you in a club, like you can walk away from that, and yeah, well, it will upset you, but at the end of the day, you can walk away from that. You can go home to your safe house and you can sit down with whoever you want, and it's gone. But revenge porn, that follows you. Like you Google your name, it's there. Like people are sending you that link for years. Like you cannot escape that. That's not something that happens one time and then you can get away from it.
It happens over and over because every time somebody encounters it, they feel like they're doing you a favour by letting you know.
Yeah, and actually, like I mean, I guess it is, and I don't have an issue with someone bringing it up and saying, oh, this is maybe you should know about this, even if the person already knows, because some people do just be like, oh, I can't be bothered with this anymore, and that is hurtful because it's bringing up trauma and it's like reopening an old wound again and again and again and again. But I don't blame those people that are trying to give information because they're just trying to do the right thing. But you go through and I mean, people do kill themselves over this because it just happens so often. Like it does drive people into such anxiety, such depression. They lose their careers, their relationships, whatever. So it's like a lifelong thing, and the police's answer to that a lot of the time is change your name, move, change your social media. They don't say, oh, we'll look into it, we'll catch this person.
It feels a bit to me like when a woman accuses someone of rape or sexual assault and the first two questions are, were you drinking, what were you wearing?
No, it all falls into the same thing. I don't use the word women when I'm talking about this, even though it is a largely women's issue, because this does happen to men and it happens to people that are non-binary as well. But the whole thing is to do with feminism, realistically, and feminism doesn't just mean women. Feminism essentially means equity. Like that's what the word feminism means. It doesn't mean equality. We all have equality technically. I'm fighting the same fight as you. Equity is giving us the same opportunities, which we definitely don't have.
Yeah.
So when it comes to it's a feminist issue because the people who are being affected by it, regardless of their gender, are being told that they're not as important and they don't matter and their body doesn't belong to them, and it's to everyone's right to see these things even though it's definitely not. Essentially we need to kind of band together, and it is a massively affecting a women's issue, but I've spoken to a lot of men who this has affected as well. So you can't just we can't just narrow it down and say, oh, it's just a women's thing, because that even makes it worse, because like I want people to understand that this is affecting men as well, because then we have more chance of people caring. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. But when coming back to the rape accusations, like that's just what happens. I mean, I know so many people, myself included, who have reported things like sexual assault, rape, and they just get dropped because they're like, oh, what were you wearing? Oh, there's no evidence, sorry. Oh, you've showered? Well, we can't do anything. Like, it's like things like that. And they're like, and a lot of the time they're like, well, we need solid evidence. And someone sends you an awkward message or like stalks you, sometimes you just block them and delete them, and that deletes all the evidence. So it's like so hard to just, for someone to take your word for these things.
Yeah. One of the things that came up when I was researching this was they were advising people not to get the content taken down. Yeah. Because of that, just that you're destroying the evidence. So if you contact the website and ask them to remove the content, right, you're destroying evidence. And it really sort of made me think, but it must be so damaging for somebody to have that going through their head, that people are looking at me online, just that constant reminder. Also, one of the things that I was really uncomfortable with was the idea that you just shouldn't send it.
Oh God, yeah.
It's like the knee-jerk reaction. Like when I looked at this online, that was the advice. Just don't send nudes. Just don't do it. And it's like,
so then I have a couple of things. Like, have you ever felt something on your body that you couldn't see and no one else was around, so you just grabbed your phone? Have you ever taken a photo of yourself on holiday? Have you ever taken a photo of a particularly bad sunburn? Have you ever taken a photo of yourself that was just funny? Like when you got out of the bath and your hair was weird. Have you ever done that? Have you ever taken a photo like to spice up your relationship? Have you ever taken a photo just as an art thing? Like there's a million excuses. And then on top of that, like, because everyone's done all of those things. There's nobody in the world that's never taken a photo of themselves on holiday. I'm sorry. Like you've definitely taken a photo in your, essentially your underwear on holiday, because that's what a bikini or a trunks or whatever. Nobody goes on holiday in a full wetsuit unless it's their religion, do you know? Yeah. So that just doesn't make sense. And then you've got the other part of it, where it's just people that haven't even taken the photos at all and are edited and then or are not aware of them. So don't take these photos is such a pathetic and ignorant excuse that some people just come up with. And the kind of people that I see doing that are like, you know, like 50-year-old men who just don't have a clue, and they're like, oh, just don't take the photos. And it's like,
I think as well, like 10 minutes after somebody invented the camera, somebody was taking a picture of somebody nude. It's part of human nature to a certain degree. Like, I've been with my partner 13 years. It's not something that we've ever really done. But if, for example, she was to send something to me, wouldn't it even register as a massively outrageous thing because you're in such a long-term relationship? But the notion of then sending that on or sharing it with anybody is...
That's what's weird.
Completely incredulous to me, you know what I mean? Like, but that is obviously the scenario that a lot of people find themselves in. What I wanted to ask, just to kind of hark back to a previous point when we were talking about, you know, sex offenders registers and sexual assault and these types of things, is that if you've not given your consent to have your content, let's call it that, you know, shared, how is that any different to somebody sharing indecent images in any other capacity? And how is there any legitimate classification they try and use to say, well, it's no, the sharing indecent images because, or is it just, no, that's not what it is?
So one of my friends, her content, I was actually taken like professionally, and it was for something different, which was when she was 18, and she's tried to report this to the police, and basically the police told her that because it's been circulated now in ways that she didn't want to happen, but they said, well, you got them taken, so like you obviously wanted those to get taken. So it's like they're literally saying to her, well, you got them taken, so what did you expect? It's like, well, no, I got them taken for a specific purpose.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing, though, like, have you ever, I mean, you've probably never been, you're both guys, but there's this thing called Girls' Day Out in the SECC, and they have them everywhere. They're like quite common. One of the stalls that is commonly in all of them is get like a saucy burlesque shoot done for your partner. That's like so common. So like realistically, if you went to one of those and they took your photos for your partner and then they somehow got out, that means if you go to the police and say someone shared these, they'd be like, well, you got them taken. It's like, but what? Like, that's an intimate thing for me and my partner. That doesn't make sense. But just also relating back to what you just said about as soon as someone got a camera, they took a photo of a naked body. That's been happening since the beginning of time. Like, have you ever seen a painting in the olden days that wasn't of a woman naked? Have you ever seen a sculpture where they haven't got their dick out? Like, have you ever seen that? Like that, the human form is fascinating to everyone, and like just because we have a new way of capturing that doesn't mean that it should be any more accessible.
It's an issue of consent. It's not an issue of
technology
or content or taking the picture or sending the picture. It comes down to consent, and for
a lot
me,
of people sadly don't understand consent these days.
That's the most important thing. I think that's just becoming apparent that people just haven't understood consent full stop, rather than a sort of societal these days. One of the things that really concerned me is that victims don't get anonymity. How important do you think that is for people so that they can feel comfortable like coming forward? Because as we've discussed, like future employers, current employers, they Google people, they go on people's social media, they check them out, they make sure that, I mean, if somebody comes in and I interview them, one of the first things I'll do is check out their Twitter feed. Just because
I want to see what memes they're looking at.
Exactly. Or like,
I want to know if they're a Tory. Like.
that's the most important point. But do you think that's really like fundamental to give victims a platform to feel comfortable to come forward?
Yeah. Why shouldn't you allow to be kept anonymous? Like that's just absolute nonsense. Like this is already traumatic enough without someone then having to like relive it constantly. And if it's linked to their name, so imagine this came out in the press and this person was already mortified that this had happened to them. So they quietly gone to the police, said, please can I get this sorted? And then it somehow got bigger and bigger, and then it ended up in the press. That person that was already embarrassed is now embarrassed on a worldwide level. And that's what is a shame about, that's the bad side about what I'm doing, is that obviously now people are probably Googling me every day thinking, where are these photos of her? But that is, to me, like only to me personally, it's worth the fight of doing this. But to a lot of people, that's not worth it. Like that's definitely not worth it. They're not, not everyone's starting a movement. Like a lot of people just want this dealt with, and to not allow them like the sanctity of not being public about it. Like you can, for God's sake, you can go private when you win the lottery. So why the hell can't you go private when you talk about something as serious as this?
Think about like super injunctions, the amount of football players that have been, playing away from home and go somebody up the duff, and then they'll get a super injunction. I mean, the things that you can go anonymous for out there is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This isn't one of them.
It just made me go, like, why don't, if this is something that victims are crying out for, why don't we just give it to them?
Well, this is the thing. Victims are crying out for so much and just not granted. But like a lot of the time, I don't know if you've read this, but victims get like their stuff seized. So this happens in rape cases as well. Actually, the officers that spoke to me were like, "Oh, we probably should seize your phone, but I don't want to do that." And I was like, "Yeah, that's ridiculous." And they were like, "Yeah, we had a meeting about it this morning, and we were telling them how ridiculous it is." And it is like, why? Because a lot of victims get their phone seized for like 2 years, and then they turn it back on, and you can see when it was last switched on, and they haven't been switched on in 2 years. So the police have just been holding their phone for absolutely no reason. And it's like, why should the victim have to give over a piece of their and someone taking your phone is incredibly invasive. Like I don't know anyone that's just like, yeah, here, have my phone. Like that's not something you do. Your phone's very personal, so it's like, why would you have to give up something like that?
Especially for digital content.
Exactly.
It's not as if the phone is the only place this is.
This is the thing. Like when I was giving out that link to the police when I first saw them, they were like, "Okay, we're not going to take your phone, but like, can you put this link on a CD?" And I was like, "A CD? This is 2019. Like, there's no CD players in here." I was like, "No, I can't put it on a CD. That's not even possible." And they were like, "Okay, can you do it on a USB disk?" I was like, "Can you not just write down the link and type it in?" And they were like, "Oh no, we won't be able to open it on a police computer." And I'm like, "Well, why would you want it on a CD or USB?" But they don't understand the concept of even a link, which is another thing that's a problem. So it's like they didn't understand the concept of what Mega was or Dropbox. So I was like, well, it's kind of like Dropbox. And they were like, I don't know what that is either. And I'm like, do you understand the internet? Like, why are you dealing with internet crime?
Sounds like the police aren't capable or trained to deal with these types of things. But
if you ask them, they're getting the training, and we totally deal with these things well. Like there was a interview, the guy that I spoke to, with the BBC, he interviewed a police officer, and he asked me a lot of questions to ask him, and he very, very briefly, but I had written 1,000 questions to this police officer about why are you not dealing with it? But the police officer just sat there kind of dead-eyed, and he was like, we're dealing with this in the best way we can. We've had no complaints. And it was just so just rigid and not there, and it was so fake, because I was watching that, and literally right before that police officer came on, there was 2 different women that said police haven't done anything, but his excuse was we've had no complaints. And that's such, and I used I actually texted Connor after this, and I was like, well, now I know where the phrase cop out comes from, because it was such a cop out, because he was just like, oh well, we've had no complaints, as if someone who's gone to report this and then gets told, well, there's nothing we can do, as if they're going to go back and complain. They're already mortified that they've gone to the people, the one person in the world that should be able to help them.
Yeah.
And they've said, nah. It's like, what are the police for if we can't report these kind of things to them?
Speak to your manager.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'll go get a haircut and I'll come back. Yeah.
There seems to be a distinct lack of convictions as well. I think I've seen a statistic that somewhere 60-65% of cases don't even make it past an initial
1 in 3 just get dropped. Yeah.
So they just get picked up, dropped, and then nothing happening.
It's wild.
What was the kind of, I mean, we've sort of touched on it a wee bit, but what kind of attitudes did you face for the police?
So I've only just reported this year, I believe, because in the past I just was also embarrassed and just thought, well, I'll deal with it myself. And I know a lot of people that are good with the internet, a lot better than the police. So I've just been like, can you help me take this down? Because I know a lot of people that are just good with computers and good with emailing people and whatever. So I've always been able to try and deal with it myself. But this year I just got angry, and I think you go through several different reactions when this happens to you, and a lot of the time it's just, I'm anxious as fuck, I am sad, I am depressed, I'm miserable, I don't want to leave the house, and I don't want to speak to anyone, and I don't want to deal with this, I just want it to go away. Mm-hmm. But I'm at the point now where it's happened so many times, I was just like, I'm fucking furious. I can't be bothered anymore, I'm sick of this, I'm happy now, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Why is this still happening? So when I reported it, I was more just frank and angry about it. So if they had said anything that would have upset me, it wouldn't have affected me in a way that I would have been sad. I just got more angry. But the police officers that dealt with me, they were absolutely lovely. And I mean, I don't mean this in terms of them as characters, but their training was useless, because again, what I said, they don't know anything about the internet, which is, they're great police officers, but they're not trained in this, and I don't know whose fault that is. And I don't know how to fix that, because it's not like we can go in and be like, oh, well, this is how you deal with it. Because I don't know anything about hacking. Like, I can't deal with that. One girl actually that I know, the way that she dealt with it in the past, she contacted Anonymous and they dealt with it for her, which is crazy to me. And they literally, and I didn't even know they were real, but yeah, she like contacted them and was like, can you help me? And they did it. So it's like, if an online hacktivist group can deal with this, why the hell can't the police deal with it? Because it makes you think, like, you know how like Mr. Robot, when he's just hacking into everything, I'm like, realistically, you could probably hack into anything, because the police don't have the capability to stop you.
Something that reminded me, and I can remember the attitudes at the time when the what was it they called it, the frappening.
The fappening.
The fappening. Do you remember
the
this?
Frappening.
Yeah.
the Starbucks.
Yeah. Do you remember that happening when like loads of famous people's iClouds get hacked and naked pictures of
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, Hunger Games and and there seemed to be this
else.
mad clamber to get these images. It was almost like men were like, wow, yes, brilliant. Like, where do I find these?
Yeah.
And this reminded me of that, and almost was thinking that's the type of situation where we need to sort of clamp down. When it happens to famous people, we're almost excited. Do you know what I mean? Or maybe that'll change, maybe if it ever happened again. But this is like the same thing, but happening to normal folk. And I don't think...
Which is worse, I'm not going to lie. Like, if you're a celebrity, realistically, you've got access to a lot. You've got access to people that are going to fix it for you.
Yeah,
you probably don't have to deal with it at all.
Say.
You just give it to your agent and they will deal with it. And then you can sit quietly with all your money.
Yeah.
And you can be like, well, I'll just go buy some new Fendi and I'll be fine. Like, you realistically, like, if you were a celebrity, I'm not saying that it doesn't affect you, but I'm saying it doesn't affect you in the same way that it does a regular person.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we don't have access to lawyers. Like, that's expensive. Like, you don't have the access to that. You don't have the access to the specialists that are going to get this stuff taken down. I mean, there's a lot of people now that if you Google and try and find their nudes, like Pete Wentz, you will never, ever, ever find that photo of Pete Wentz, ever. You won't find it. It's not on the internet anymore. How the hell did that get taken off? So, like, it's like people that are famous, they have access to get these things fixed. We don't have that.
I think when you're in the public eye as well, it moves the conversation on pretty quickly too.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, for example, we say Jennifer Lawrence that I mentioned, like, nobody's coming back to her 10 years later after 100 movies and going, remember that time you had a nude picture on the internet?
Exactly.
Like, she's got so much merit. Whereas, as you say, your real life scenarios, job searches, whatever.
This could end a normal person's life.
Bring it back.
Realistically, like, I mean, the Kim K sex tape, I know she released that herself, but like that boosted them.
Yep.
These kind of things for celebrities can actually boost them.
Yep.
This kind of thing for a normal person can end them.
Yeah.
So that's the difference there. And it's still shit when it happens to a celebrity. And we do need to clamp down on that. But realistically, they're not the people that lives are getting ruined by this.
Yeah.
So they, as much as they should be the focus, they should be also saying, well, look at these other victims that aren't us.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Do you think that there's an element of responsibility that goes behind that? Because, I mean, I don't know if this is true, but it seemed that the Paris Hilton and the Pamela Anderson were actually leaked.
Okay.
But the Kim Kardashian one was sort of created and was sort of packaged and purposely put out there to boost her self-image. And
Power too, I'd do that if I could.
so do you think that that's fair enough, but it shouldn't? Do you think it sets the precedent so guys are thinking like, well, I can share this video then if that's the case? Because the way that they packaged it was like, this has been leaked. Yeah. It wasn't Kim Kardashian coming out and going, here's my sex tape.
Yeah.
It was almost like, let's put this out. I mean, her mum put it out.
Exactly.
For fuck's sake, do you know what I mean? And if you
that's a very different situation. I think that's such a unique situation where it's so cleverly constructed. And I mean, like, look at the Kardashian empire now. Like, Kris knew what she was doing.
It's built on that, basically.
Essentially, because like they were just the family of the lawyer of O.J. Simpson. Like they were famous, but they weren't what they are now. Now they rule the world. Like, but that's such a different scenario. And if anyone looked at the Kardashians and was like, well, it worked for them, so I'll just post a video of my ex-girlfriend, like, that doesn't make sense. Because it's not like they're not famous already. Like, that's not going to do anything. I understand what you're saying.
I'm playing like devil's advocate.
Yeah, no, you have to. You're a podcaster. But yeah, no, you're right. But this is, you wouldn't, I mean, if someone had that in their brain, I just would be like, you need to go and go therapy, man, because that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I think sometimes porn's so normalised now. I mean, if you go back to 15, 20 years ago, the idea of men, maybe a wee bit longer than that, but when I was a teenager, the idea of sitting around and talking about your favourite porn movie would have been strange, but it's almost like so accepted as part of like society now that porn's just a daily thing for people. And I think that's why it's so dangerous calling this porn, because I don't see it as porn. It's an act of aggression towards somebody, and pornography, well, it is aggressive now, but...
Well, I mean, the thing, when you say that, I think that brings up an even deeper issue into, is porn that good? Like, yeah, there's some people that make their own porn, and there's some people that are deeply happy making porn. But there's a lot of really exploitative porn, and that's not talked about when people talk about porn. So like, there's two sides of the coin to that. There's a lot of people that, porn's not what they want to do. They've been forced into it. And there's a lot of people that, it's like the same kind of situation with this. They're either not aware that it's being filmed or stuff like that. There's a lot of people that, there's like videos caught masturbating and stuff like that people don't even know exist. Like, so like porn... there's the nice, shiny, happy side of porn that people like to think that they only watch that. But realistically, porn is probably the biggest thing on the internet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like if someone's
like
got
80% of the internet's porn into it.
Yeah.
Type in anything, it'll come up. Like anything, jelly bean porn is probably there. Like but that's the thing. Like people like to look at that very, very, very top layer of porn with like I don't know her name. What's the Donald Trump porn star?
Stormy Daniels.
Her. And then like Asa Akira, and they look at that and they're like, look at them, they're also happy making porn. And then you don't look at like the other like probably 70% of it, which is like people who are
Well, this is the thing, is that like a lot of the, particularly in that Hot Girls Wanted that we kind of referenced earlier on, there was a bit of information in it saying that the average kind of, starlet has a lifespan of maybe 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
Where they can do this, glossy, high-end stuff that it looks as if everybody's having fun. But beyond that, if they want to keep working in the industry, people have seen them.
Yeah.
They're no the new thing anymore. Yep. And they need to go deeper and darker and more aggressive and violent and stuff like that. And I think that's something that maybe this notion of revenge porn sort of feeds into. And we have discussed it on other podcasts where, when you've discussed, previous, porn addiction and stuff like that, that you become numb to it and you need more. It needs to get heavier. It needs to get darker. And people go into places and, kinks that they wouldn't ordinarily be involved in. And this feels like a kind of extension of that, where people have maybe overexposed themselves to the sort of mainstream porn 100%. And they're looking for something more risky, something a bit darker, a bit heavier, that, the intrusion and the offence that it causes these people is part of the kick they get out of it.
This is, I mean, I don't watch porn at all, but in terms of knowing things about it, I do know quite a lot about it. So porn's moved, it's shifted since when it first started. So porn used to be about blonde lassies with massive tits that had massive lips, and they were like, what you imagine in your head as being porn star. But that's moved now. Now it's the girl next door that is in the limelight. Now people want someone that looks regular. Now people want someone that they would see on the street, because that's what they actually see. You're never going to see a porn star walking about. Like, you just won't. But like, you can see someone, you're someone at work that looks like a porn star. Someone, like that kind of thing. That's what's big right now. So this is feeding into that, like, because with the rise of the girl next door style of porn, now people just want to see real people. They've got sick of it. They're like, well, I'm bored of people acting, so no, I just want to see the real thing. No, I want to see someone I can actually see on the street.
And is there a chance, do you think, that the desensitivity that people have to the mainstream porn that's maybe drove them towards this is what tricks them almost sometimes into thinking it's acceptable? Because there are people who deliberately maybe put this stuff out there and are malicious.
Yeah, definitely. No doubt. Oh, God, yeah.
But I think there's probably also a proportion of people who maybe share sexually explicit content and don't actually maybe realise how offensive and how dangerous what they're doing is because of this sort of wider trend towards these sort of girl next door. It's the imagery and the idea is so common to them now that when they see it elsewhere, as in revenge porn, they don't recognise that what they're looking at are two different things because they look the same.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Again, therapy. I really recommend that.
Yeah.
I know all about that. Did you see the thing that was it about 3 or 4 months ago? The BBC Social outed that guy that he was like a pickup artist in Glasgow.
Oh my god, yeah.
Did you see about
Yeah.
this?
I remember that.
That guy was videoing women without their knowledge and talking about. I mean, one of the ones that really it was like that. It was shocking. I mean, it's like a 36-year-old man. Like I think in this day and age, very little shocks you sometimes. But the girl had specifically asked him not to use a condom, and then after he'd had sex with her, he videoed her sleeping in the bed and then showed the unused condom next to the bed and was laughing about how he completely went against her wishes. And
That's rape.
He's just outed himself as a rapist.
Yeah.
Like, that guy got nothing done to him. His YouTube channel got taken down. He get questioned by the police, and I think he get reprimanded. I think that was the outcome. And that guy literally put on his YouTube channel that he had raped a woman, and that really like shocked me. And I think that's a huge barrier for me. That if somebody is that blatant and open about what they've done and they don't get prosecuted, I mean, that guy should have went to jail.
Yeah.
100% should have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, should have been. Should be. I think he is actually on. I think he was put on the register.
Good.
Although I could be wrong about that. It wouldn't surprise me if it was wrong.
The way that things go these days, I mean.
I think that feeds into this sort of normalising of this type of behaviour. And what Matt was saying there about one of the reasons why I wanted to do this podcast was in the hope that maybe some men will watch it or listen to it and realise that, fuck, I've done that. Or like, one of the situations, and I won't name any names, is like mates coming to you when they've had a one night stand and going, look at this picture that this chick's sent me and shown it, and then he's all like huddled around the phone, and that's something that
it's wrong. It's deeply wrong.
it is deeply wrong. But even I'm not going to sit and be like, am I saying in the past I've done that, and on reflection, I'm kind of disgusted with myself that I've done it. Now that I get the perspective of people, that wasn't meant for me to see, and then I've ended up in rooms with these people as well, where
subsequently,
like after it, like, do you think the whole sort of like, I hate this term, but the sort of toxic masculinity at all, do you think this is just a sort of byproduct of that?
Why do you hate that term?
Just because it's too blanket, like it's no nuanced enough. Like, just to begin and saying that guy did something that's toxic masculinity, I think that it's too triggering for people. It's almost like
buzzword.
I love feminism,
right?
But I don't like the way feminism's portrayed and the way that the word's used. And I think that toxic masculinity is used in that same sort of way, just to blanket term anything that people don't like that men do, type thing. Whereas we need to sort of go into it more
and find be more detailed and like issue. Look at the issue in question rather than just broad stroking it.
You need to sort of like because a lot of the time, they just slap it on it, but that people don't talk about like where toxic masculinity comes from and how it's been fed into the men. And a lot of the time, I mean, you can't blame a young boy, like you just can't, because he's been fed stuff by everything else. And then it's almost it's hard to blame men now, because it's hard to blame younger men because they are just being fed it. They're just being told, this is what you can do, this is what you can do. Boys will be boys, do what you want. If you rape someone, you will probably go to prison for less time than if the person gets an abortion. That's what's happening in the US right now. So that's why, but the older men, it's definitely their responsibility. And I mean that from like anywhere from 25 onwards, because then you're an adult. You have to understand that what you're doing is wrong. You have to understand that, like being emotionless isn't something that you should do. Treating women any differently than you would treat your best mate is weird, unless you're flicking your best mate in the balls. Don't do that. But it's just, you need to take responsibility. And I know what you mean. Toxic masculinity is a massive buzzword now, but it doesn't mean that it should be ignored, because people do need to reflect on themselves massively. It's especially men, because the fight that everyone else is fighting is because of toxic masculinity, and it includes men in that, because men think, oh well, he's a guy, he can take it, or like he's a guy, he can't be raped, And it's like, that's not true. Men are actually fighting themselves with that, and they don't even realize. That's why feminism exists. And I understand, you're right, it is portrayed shit, and feminism these days it's a bad word to say that you're a feminist, because it sounds like you're just angry and you want, but it actually, what it is about is, stop fucking raping people.
There's a big issue with, and if we were going to talk about where the nuances and the notions of toxic masculinity come from, I think in the context of this conversation, male entitlement is something that I think is a massive sort of trigger here. And as you say, the things that we're told for young ages is that even Disney, you know what I mean?
God,
how subservient women are to men,
my God,
how the final goal is always to be there
With
for
the
your
man.
prince and all that kind of carry on, and that carries on through life. And I think, as we see in porn as well, there's a lot of subservience there. I think it just feeds into this, and I think that's when, these revenge porn incidents happen. It is an assault, and I think a lot of the time there's, well, this picture was shared with me, I'm entitled to, or this is my woman, I'm entitled to do what I want, and I think that's something that we definitely need to address. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, consent is where it's at. You know what I mean?
It's just scary how few people understand consent. Because that was another thing with the OnlyFans thing. Like, a lot of people were saying, like, oh, well, I love how lassies were, like, getting annoyed when people posted their photos, but, like, now they're just posting themselves and asking for money. It's like, you don't understand such basic consent. And, like, going back on, like, talking about rape, like, I recently told someone that they had raped me, and he had no idea. Like, he had no idea that it happened. He was so confused. He was like, what? And I was like, yeah, that. And I, like, talked him through the whole thing. And I was like, do you not see how that there was no consent there? And he was like, he was so shocked at the fact that it had happened.
Wow.
And I was like, how can you not know? Like, how could you not have been aware that that was going on? And it scares me because I've been a victim of rape so many times in my life. And for someone to not just get it when it's happening, like, if someone's stiff, they don't want to have sex with you. If someone's saying no, they don't want to have sex with you. If someone's not kissing you back, they don't want to have sex with you. These are such obvious things in my mind, so it scares me that people are not aware of it. And then it's like, that's just consent in the idea of rape, but like consent in the idea of sharing these images. If someone sends you something, it's like if someone tells you a secret.
Yeah.
Like, you don't just go, and it's again with like gossip and high school culture. It's like, don't just go and share this stuff. Like, you're an adult. Like, you can't just go like doing that.
If your partner told you a secret via text message, you wouldn't share
You
it
wouldn't
with a
share
work
it,
colleague.
yeah.
But if
You
a
wouldn't follow
partner
it on
sent you
your
a
group chat.
Yeah,
picture of your tits, why would you then go against it?
exactly.
The same type of
Why would you want
communication, same
anyone
type
else
of
seeing
format.
that?
I don't know.
It's almost like, and I'm going against what I was just saying. Like, I don't like saying toxic. That is almost like one of the most prevalent forms of toxic masculinity is bragging.
Exactly.
That's all that it is. I mean, I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day, and she was saying that it all stems from low self-esteem and men wanting to tell their mates that they've done X, Y, and Z, and it got me into
Daddy issues.
Yeah, definitely.
Men have way worse daddy. People talk about women with daddy issues. Men have the worst daddy issues in the world.
Yeah.
They're constantly looking for approval from their dads, from other men, and it's like this. That is toxic masculinity to its core. Is like they're trying to be the best. It's that alpha thing. They're like, if I'm not the alpha, then what the fuck am I doing? So it's like, well, I need to be fucking the best girl, and I need to show evidence of that because no one's going to believe it otherwise. And I need to be like driving the best car and all this stuff. And that's what toxic masculinity is. It's being the best at something, even though you don't need to, but just quietly live your own life. Like, why should anyone else care?
Be the best at something absolutely horrible.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah.
I think you nailed it when you said, like, I mean, I've got a bit down here and we can talk about it a wee bit more, but what should people do and what's men's responsibility? And I think that everybody's responsibility is to take care of themselves, like go to therapy. If you're having weird sexual fantasies or you're having urges to tell your mates in graphic detail what you did on a Saturday night with a consensual sexual experience, then maybe you need to go and talk to somebody about that. Like, I think that therapeutic culture in the UK is taboo almost. Like, people don't go and see therapists or talk about going and seeing therapists. And
it's hard. It's expensive. It's unaffordable for a lot of people. A lot of people would rather just go on a night out than go to therapy that week. That's true. And the waiting list for the NHS, I mean, you could be on that for 2 years, 3 years before you saw a therapist. So like, that's why it's so taboo, and because people, one, can't afford it, or two, aren't getting seen. You're not seen immediately in therapy unless you are like a risk to yourself or to other people. That's why no one goes. And it's just like, that's it, pretty much. Like, that's why it's taboo. Like, it's a bigger thing in America, I think, but even that, like, they have to pay for everything, so they're kind of used to it. Our healthcare's free here, so the idea of paying to talk to someone, they're like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I think America, it's a rich industry.
Yeah.
And so they push it. So they want people to come to therapy because they're like profit driven, but that's the good side. I
don't know, and I think that when we look at where men are going, like, and we've obviously discussed feminism, I kind of feel like we need something for men that has a similarity to feminism in respect, where women recognised what they wanted, organised, and went about achieving the goals that they set out, working together as a community, and you know, obviously progressing as, you know, progressing their sex at that time. Like, I think there is something that claims to be like that going on for men now, but unfortunately it's run by fucking idiots and incels, and it's
meninism.
It's going, well, as I'm saying, it claims to be that thing, but it's what we need is the exact opposite. Is what I'm saying is that we actually need men to be able to like form a community and say, well, here's the issues that men are having and stuff like that, and maybe that will combat some of this, you know, toxic masculinity.
Imagine the fight back against that, though. Imagine it. Like, imagine a group of men banded together and we're like, we're going to really respect women. Can you imagine? They'd get the stick so bad.
It does happen, but you get called a cuck.
Yeah.
Or you get called a
pussy or whatever.
Yeah,
they people are like, the men, the toxic masculine side of people, they actively fight against that. 'Cause they're like, well, you're a man, then why do you care? It's like, well, because I'm just trying to care about the other people. They're like, nah, you don't need to do that.
Yeah, we're all fine. People.
Yeah.
I mean, like, me and Matt had an actual direct experience of this, and again, like, I'd never name names of people, but we did direct experience. I seen a group chat image that had objectified a female in it. Do you
so
think
passing as well? It wasn't even like a mullet. It was just this. Oh, by the way, check this out. It was just, and we were actually talking about what we were, you know, the build up to this episode, and it was weird. The two of us, and actually, what him was pure. Dig what literally just came through on my phone, and it was like exactly kind of what we're talking about, where we were going. Like, I think a lot of people make this mistake and don't even realise that. And this was like straight away on it. You know,
do you think that it's our jobs to just confront that head on and just
absolutely men take responsibility? Like, if you don't talk to your friends, if you're backing down, you're being like, oh well, that's just what he's like. Everyone has that mate. Everyone has that mate that's a bit of a cunt, and they're like, that's just what he's like. You know, they're like, oh, just don't mind him. He's just going to be a bit annoying. Don't mind him. Mind him. Do something about him. He's going to kill someone. like just do something about it. And you're like, I see it in so many groups of mates where they're like, hey, I've got this friend, you know, he's a bit racist or he's a bit sexist or he's a bit homophobic, but we just sort of deal with it because that's just Stevie or whatever. And it's like, why don't you just say to Stevie, hey, that's actually not cool? Like, that's actually not cool.
I think people are just afraid of losing mates potentially.
Fuck them then. Fuck your mates if they're like that. Sorry, they're not that cool. They're not. Like, realistically, is that mate gonna look out for you? Like,
probably
dump
not.
that mate. Like,
no,
they don't. People like this need to be isolated until they can work on themselves. If we keep enabling these people, they don't change. You need to shut them out. You need to say, change or I'm not going to be your friend anymore.
Yeah.
And if they don't change, you know, let them out into the world and let them deal with whatever comes from that. Because one day that's going to come crashing down on them. These people don't just, you know, like, die fine.
They don't get better on their own. They don't change unless you actually nudge them.
Or they end up in really abusive relationships where they abuse someone, and then it leads to the whole thing of like people not believing women again, and people end up dying because they're like, oh, this guy's domestically abusing me, and they're like, oh, we'll deal with it next time, and the next time they're dead.
Yeah.
It's like, these things need to be confronted.
Absolutely.
I can't just ignore this.
A sad truth that this does kind of all feed in. And part of something that it reminded me of was when we were talking to a guy called Dan Proverbs, and he's the head of a charity called Brothers in Arms, which is about male suicide. And his advice was look at the subtle behaviours of individuals. If you see strange things, like, I mean, to me, posting a picture of a woman in a group chat, if I go back maybe a couple of years, wouldn't feel strange, but now that I've had this perspective, I'm like, holy shit, that is weird behaviour. And his advice is, ask them if they're okay, like what's going on in these people's lives. So I think that for me, a solution, and I think that a solution that I'll take up in the future will be a quiet word, rather than just shaming people like in the group chat. Maybe
Yeah.
that isn't cool, mate. Like what you doing in front of an audience would maybe be if I can get one-on-one with people and just say to them, mate, like, do you know how damaging that is? Like, and also what's going on in your life.
Those conversations are so important. Like, they're so important. Like, see, sitting down one-on-one with someone, just being like, what's going on? Like, why do you think that's okay? Like, it genuinely, and a lot of the time, like, if you do that, they will end up sort of like softening, and they'll be like, oh God, you're right, man. I don't know why I did that. And that's the kind of thing that's going to change the world. Just speaking to people. And I'm sorry to say this, but it's largely a man's responsibility, because that's where a lot of it's coming from. And like, I could speak to a million of these men, but at the end of the day, they're still going to go home and not listen to me, because they're like, well, she's a woman. What the fuck is she talking about? But men listen to other men. That's just the sad reality. So like, yeah, I mean, like my partner and all of his friends, they're really like good with all this now. They don't do anything like that. Like the first time we had sex, they didn't tell anyone about it. Like this is the kind of men they are. But like if they have friends that bring that sort of stuff up, they literally pull them to one side and they're like, that's not okay.
Yeah, it's not appropriate.
And that's good. Like that's all it needs, because then that person might just change their behavior. Even if they don't, if they have enough quiet words from enough people, they're gonna eventually go, yeah, maybe I should think about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And male suicide, like that's a massive thing as well. Like we need to talk about that, because I mean, men, that's again toxic masculinity fighting men as themselves, because if you show any sort of weakness, if you show any sort of emotion, you're going to get penalized for that, and then you're just going to feel more and more alone, more and more isolated, and then it's just going to end in, what do I do? I'm going to kill myself.
More and more likely to have this offensive and
men,
dangerous
I think,
behaviour.
kill themselves more than women.
on I think like 41,
Yeah.
something like that.
So
on like a mass scale.
It's massive. So like, why aren't men caring about each other? Like every movie you watch, like I watched Superbad last night, like at the end of it, they're just lying there telling each other they love each other. Why the fuck isn't that happening? Like, why aren't men doing that? Just tell each other you love each other. Tell each other you care. Like that's what you need. That's why men are so obsessed with women, because they're looking for that meaningful, loving connection that they just can't get from their mates.
Yeah.
Like women are actually all right on their own a lot of the time, like because they've got their friends, and you could say to your friend, oh, I need a cuddle, and they'll be like, right, I'm coming over, we're going to watch a film, I'll cuddle you all night, I love you. And that I say I love you to all my girlfriends like all the time. That's just the way that women operate, where you go into a girl's bathroom at a club, like that, you will never see a more loving place in your life. Men just aren't like that, and that's what needs to change. Men just need to love each other more, and I think that would actually solve a lot of society's problems.
Cool.
I agree. I mean, I 100% agree actually. Like I think that I've had a couple of mates, I've went through a massive change in the last 3-4 years, and as Matt was saying earlier, I used to be addicted to porn, and I've got rid of that. I was a sex addict for a while, and I've just come through the other side. And I've actually seen people drop off, and I think it's because I might freak them out a wee bit with just the level of sort of talk that I don't talk to people on this sort of superficial level. I talk about how I feel.
Yeah.
And I think it just freaks certain people
It
out.
does,
There's
yeah.
like one or two really good mates that just I don't hear from anymore, and I think it's because they're a bit like, whoa, where the fuck have you went? Like, you've just... It's almost like wooey, or like I'm talking about meditation, I'm talking about self-care, what makes me feel
Important
good.
things,
Really
yeah.
important things, but it just freaks a lot of men out.
They don't want to look inside themselves. They don't want to improve. They don't want to do these things because they're like, well, I'm fine as I am. And I think a lot of the time they're scared as fuck to look inside themselves, because they've done so many awful things in their lives, and they're like, I don't want to confront that. I don't want to confront that girl I looked at. I don't want to confront that person I spoke about badly. I don't want to confront that girl I sexually assaulted. I don't want to confront those thoughts, because I know that they're wrong, but they got a laugh at the time, so someone's validated me, so it's fine. They don't want to look at that and they realize that it's wrong. That's why this is such a big thing. That's why we're here today, because people don't want to look inwards and see that sharing this shit's wrong.
So in terms of, obviously, the campaign, we've talked about how, if there was, that platform for men to have these open emotions that, they would get shouted. And have you had much in the way of sort of pushback on the campaign or anything along those lines? Because it feels like it might be a subject that's quite confrontational, or no confrontational, controversial to some people, particularly if they look at the campaign and go, do you know what? I've actually, and I know, as we've discussed, we both have reflected back on certain things and went, do you know what? Maybe we were on the wrong side of that and never even realised. So I'd imagine that might be something that comes your way pretty regularly in the campaign, is it?
Well, like people saying I've changed my behaviour.
Or just, the kind of being confrontational way about it, but like no wanting to confront what's in them, so coming at you.
No.
No.
Oh, that's good.
Well, that's,
I mean, it might
positive.
happen. It's probably not big enough yet. That might happen in the future, but at the moment, nah, which is good.
That's good.
And if I did have to deal with that side of it, I would just be like, not for me. But
It's
like,
the best thing for it.
yeah, I'm not dealing with that. Like, that's another thing. Like, women are largely held as if we're supposed to be responsible to fix men. That's why, like, we're all supposed to be wives because we're supposed to fix them. It's like, it's not my job to fix you. Like, go and fix yourself.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What's really, or what's became apparent to us in doing these podcasts is that a lot of the time when men do get these positive, like ways of life, it does come from women. The male suicide prevention groups are women that are doing these things
because women care about men in ways that men do not care about women. Like that's what feminism is. Feminism is fighting for men as well, and so many people, the men that fight against that, are just fucking clueless. They don't understand it's for them.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been so alienated from a movement than what men's rights movements.
Oh my god, yeah.
Red pill or whatever it is, and
yeah.
I mean, I've spoke to a couple of people.
It's just guys that are dying to get fucked. They're like, please, someone fuck me. It's like, no.
Yeah, that's my conclusion is that these men really, really need to get laid.
That's why the incel one bothers me, is because they go, I'm an involuntary celibate. They really just want their whole.
Yeah.
And they think the best way to go about it is 20-minute rants on Facebook and
being
YouTube about why women are terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, you're going to need to refine your partner a bit.
Yeah, like, see if you were, like, actually nice. Like, see if you just looked inward and was like, what can I do that would actually appeal to a woman?
Yeah.
Like, maybe that would work. Like, you're not totally lost.
We've only been doing it for, like, 10,000 years. There's got to be, a reasonable guide out there somewhere.
This is the thing, though. Like, I imagine there's loads and loads of women out there that aren't getting laid, but they're not fucking mental. Like,
there's no toxic femininity.
Yeah, that just doesn't exist. Like, there's no women out there that's like, I mean, I know loads of women that haven't been laid in a couple of years. They're not fucking mental. They're not being like, men are awful, like men are just disgusting. They only want bad girls. It doesn't make sense. Like, that just doesn't happen. There's plenty of women not getting laid out there. Mm-hmm. Just again, it all leads back to toxic masculinity.
How you handle it?
I think that amongst men, if a guy isn't getting laid, it's almost like a point of joke.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're like, how long's it been since you got laid? I get laid last night. Or like so I think that, again, that comes from men.
Point scoring.
And I think that what you said, it's an unfortunate truth that this is down to us.
It is.
Like, we need to try and fix this situation, because I don't think it's right to be relying on victims of, like, sexual assault to try and approach an issue.
You should be protecting them, not expecting them to go through an ordeal and then fight for themselves.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Well, thanks very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Zoomed through an hour, no bother. I think half of my points here haven't even been covered. But Matt needs to get to work, so. But do you
maybe have you in another time and cover the rest of them.
Totally.
Do you want to just tell people where they can find, even if it's just like general information about revenge porn, and also find your campaign? Okay,
so if this has happened to you recently and you're looking for a helpline, there is a revenge porn helpline, so you can phone them. They have a website and a phone number. You just type in revenge porn helpline, it'll come up. And they have people that are specialised in dealing with this. If you want to speak to me or be part of the movement, or just there's a petition up there as well, so there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to be moving forward with. It's called revengeonrevengeporn.com, and everything is there, all my contact details, everything, you can see everything there. And I mean, if you want to report this to police, I suggest you do, because the more reports, the more chances of it getting dealt with. But I'm sorry if the police don't deal with you that well, but that is sadly the reality that we're facing at the moment. But it's still worth doing it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's no point in just being like, right, nobody will report it now because the police are useless. Like, the police need constant reports for them to actually go, right, okay, we're going to deal with this now. So, yeah.
Okay, superb. Thanks again for doing this. And
yeah, really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.